Attracted investments of about 770 million rand, 10% higher than expected. Joining me with more on this and the appetite for agri-investments is Herman Marais. He's Chief Executive at Agri-Vie. Herman, good afternoon. Thanks for joining us.
Good afternoon. Good to be here.
Well, Herman, an oversubscription, not bad in the current environment. Are you planning to follow up this fund given the level of appetite you're seeing at this moment?
It has been a pleasing result, Stephen, for the first closing investors and for the fund manager SP Active. So looking at the interest from the private equity investment community and also looking at the tempo of deployment in this fund as well as the quite healthy deal flow, that does make us confident to be able to project probably a follow-on fund, provided we deliver results according to the plans for this fund currently on the table.
Well, talk to us about the deal flow. What sort of businesses are you investing in?
Stephen, this fund primarily invests in food and agri-businesses in what we would typically call the value-added part of the agri-value chain. So typically it boils down to equity investment stakes in food processors, beverage manufacturers, distributors. In some cases, vertically integrated with primary production, farming, but primarily food processors in one form or another.
And the size of businesses that you are looking at for this fund?
Well, this fund to date is about 30% invested into 5 completed transactions, 3 of which in East Africa and 2 in South Africa, and we're busy completing another 2 recently concluded transactions. The sectors and the kinds of businesses where the fund is currently invested range from beverage processing in Eastern Africa, forestry and timber products, convenience foods, and then the value-added dairy segment, which represents one of our investments in South Africa. So those sectors that I've mentioned also represent then key areas of interest for the fund, and we are having discussions with other companies in similar and related subsectors in the food and agri chain.
You said the fund's 30% invested so far. When would you expect to be fully invested with this fund?
Looking at current deal flow and the contractual terms of the fund with our limited partners, we foresee that this fund will complete its investment program over the next 2 to 3 years, which would then enable us to initiate a follow-on fund, probably on the same investment theme.
Talk to us about some of the investors in this fund who have helped you raise this 770 million rand, or I think it was $110 million. Who are the investors?
Stephen, I think it is fair to say that the investors are on public record as limited partners, so I guess I'm free to mention some of the names, although it is a limited partnership. I think what is significant in the case of this fund in food and agri in Africa is that it did attract a combination of private sector long-term investment capital from the life insurance industry, particularly Sanlam Life in South Africa, as well as a private foundation from the United States, being the Kellogg Foundation. And they joined hands with other limited partners, mainly from the international and South African development finance community, including highly regarded institutional private equity investors such as Development Bank Southern Africa, European Investment Bank, the African Development Bank, as well as Norfund from Norway, and the World Bank's private sector investment arm, the IFC.
Well, you mentioned Kenya as one area where you are quite focused at this stage. Which other countries are you looking at for these agri-businesses?
Stephen, this fund's strategic focus from a geographic perspective is twofold. Firstly, the Eastern African cluster, Kenya you've mentioned. Other countries of particular interest in that geography to us as an investment team includes Uganda, include Tanzania, Rwanda, Ethiopia, where we did one investment as well. And then particularly SADC, the SADC region, with South Africa as the main actor and generator of deal flow, but certainly also looking at transaction possibilities among the immediate neighbors of South Africa. We are already completing a transaction in Mozambique, And we do see other transactions following suit among the immediate neighbors of South Africa. They are obviously form a close economic and business network with the South African business community, and there is regional momentum in terms of growth that the fund is able to capitalize on.
Well, Herman, talk to us about risk and return. What sorts of returns can investors expect from the money they've put into this project, and what sort of exit strategy are you planning at this stage?
I think what is interesting and noteworthy about this particular fund is that it forms part of a growing community of so-called impact investment funds, which is a term gaining increasing currency as a category of private equity funds that are aiming at generating both risk-adjusted returns on the investment, as well as some very demonstrable development impacts in terms of job creation, food security, development at grassroots community levels, and so forth. From a financial return perspective, as in any other equity investment program, the returns are adjusted to that level in terms of targeted returns. So it is quite a similar return profile that any other private equity fund would aim to generate over the life of the investment program.